Welcome. Today's lesson is on genetic diversity. There are times when animals and plants get put on the endangered species lists. And the reason why primarily is we're losing their numbers. And why should biologists be concerned about numbers? Well, because it's a loss of genetics. It's a loss of a possible solution to a medical problem. A loss to the world in terms of maybe even a architectural solution. So these plants and animals provide for us sometimes a look to our future. So a loss of genetic for any species is a big deal. To help illustrate the importance of genetic diversity, I'd like to tell you a story about the silver sword plant that's found on the islands of Hawaii. And in particular, we're going to concentrate on Mauna Kea, the volcano. To tell you this story, there are four very important things I'd like to share with you. Number one, the explorer who kind of kicked all this off was James Cook. He sailed from England on an expedition party and he found the Hawaiian Islands. And this place was so rich in resources, he encouraged people from England to come on out and start their commercial ventures. And then how this place used to look was recorded by a naturalist in the 1800s. Her name is Isabella Bird, and she said that the silver sword was so dense on some of these volcanoes, it looked as though it was covered in snow. The third thing is I want to tell you a little bit about the ecosystem that the silver sword lives on, and it's basically an alpine desert. That means they tend to live in higher elevations on the volcanoes, so they get a little less water. It's cold in some areas, and they get a very rugged terrain that they have to live in. Typically, they're by lava streams as well as cinder. So there isn't a lot of nutrition available to them. And then the plant itself, the silver sword. We're going to be looking at primarily just the Mauna Kea volcano and its ecosystem, but there are 30 different species throughout the Hawaiian Islands that have different kinds of silver swords. It kind of looks like a yucca plant, but actually scientists believe it evolved from California tarweed because some explorers had brought some tarweed to the island, and they say that this tarweed evolved differently on the islands and developed into this kind of particular plant. They live anywhere between 3 to about 50 years, and during that time they'll seed one time, they'll flower one time, and you have one shot to get as many seeds as you can, because then the plants will eventually die once they've gone to seed. The resource was really poorly managed by the people who settled there. They brought livestock with them, and not just a few. We're talking about thousands. Between cattle, sheep, and goats, decimated most of this ecosystem, this alpine desert ecosystem. And then they brought in, to make matters worse, a particular kind of sheep called a mouflon. And the mouflon sheep thrive in mountains terrains. They jump. They're a very hardy breed. They will twin regularly. And on top of all of that, they protected them from the 50s all the way to the 80s for game reasons. And it wasn't until the late 80s, early 90s that they stopped protecting them and started to eradicate them, get them off the island. And then about the 70s, they thought, wow, we got this problem, because in 1988 they were down to about 51 individuals. In the 70s, it was down to 131, and they started a restoration effort, mark off certain areas for replanting. And if you notice in the background here, I'll see if I can, like right here, these are some T-posts, and then some sheep fencing, and there's some barbed wire, and it's about a 6 to 7 foot fence around there. And they have marked off certain sectors, and you can see the flags right here, where these transplanted silver swords were put. And you can see in this area right in here, and a big area right in here. So the work effort began by hand pollinating, growing it into greenhouse, and then potting them out. The problem with that was they basically collected off of only 2 plants. They could only get to and find 2 parental strains, and those are the only 2 that they used. All right, to keep track of how well the plants are doing from a genetic diversity point of view, scientists put together in the early 90s these gels, and this is a gel electrophoresis picture, and they sampled 20 plants. As you can see in this picture here, this is one plant, this is another plant, all the way to plant 20. And those are just these gels that are run. And how they do that is they extract the DNA, and then they have enzymes to it, and they chop some up like a pair of scissors into different sizes. And then they run them through the gel electrophoresis. And as they run through the gel, the longer base pairs, which represent a certain trait, will stay further back because it's harder for them to get actually through the gel. And the shorter ones will go further down on the gel. So in this case, if we take a look at 1.72 thousandths of bases, like this is, let's get this right going here. This right here is a trait. That's present, that's present, that's present. You look all the way across number 20. Every one of these plants, all 20 of them, have the same trait at the same place. Which right now, okay, fine, but what does that mean? Well, that means that at that location, they all have that same trait. Let's say it's the ability to branch, which means that they'll actually produce more flowers. So anyway, this particular trait of branching is present in all of them. Now let's go to this next one, which could be, and I'm just guessing, how big around their base is going to be. If you look at all of these, they have that trait too. And if you take a look at this one, this trait, this third trait, they have that trait, and so on. They're almost 100% identical to each other. So as you can see in the restored population, how would you call it? Are these genetically diverse? Or are they genetically similar? Well, they all at 4 locations, they all have the same trait. So we would call that monomorphic. There's little to no diversity in this particular population, at least of 20 anyway. So let's take a look at the natural populations. What you should see here, okay, here is the same marker. And notice that it has a trait here, but not here. Has the same trait here and here, but not here. Has these traits right here, and if you take a look right here, it's missing that trait here. That trait's not on that one. That trait's not on that one. If we go down and sample some other ones, no trait here, no trait here. You have several right here, and then there's a blank. Now that's not necessarily bad. It just means that it has a different trait, like branching. Maybe one, maybe out of 20, 10 or 12 of them branch, and the rest of them don't. So that just means that all of these individuals are very, very different, not very, very similar. So because of their difference, they're able to thrive in an area, be able to still reproduce. So because this one has so many different traits in all these different locations on the markers, we're going to call this one polymorphic, because that means many bodies or many differences. So this is genetically diverse. So again, shouldn't surprise you that in the natural population you're going to have a lot more variety, a lot more tools for them to cope, whereas in a genetically similar situation, they're not going to maybe cope as well or as fast. I hope this has helped, and we'll be seeing you in the lab. Thank you very much.